Slight technical hitch, people. We're with you in a moment. We've got a problem with engine number 2, but we'll have it rectified very quickly. Good morning, everyone. I think we've got the technical issues resolved. I've been given the go-ahead by Susan, so welcome to the first meeting of the Housing Committee. I'm going to hand you over to Helen to run through some procedural issues.
Thank you, Chair. For those in the room, can I please ask that you have inserted your card into the right-hand side of the delegate unit? Your name should show on screen and the name of this meeting.
Can I hear you?
Thanks. Sorry. Your name should appear on screen and the name of this meeting appears at the top of the delegate screen, and press enter meeting. If your card is not working, we can issue with a spare. If you wish to speak, please press request to speak on the delegate unit and press again to switch off. When speaking, please ensure you are close enough to a microphone for your voice to be picked up and it's pointed towards you. This will ensure remote participants can hear. For those in the room using their laptops, please ensure you've used F5 and F8 to mute your microphones to ensure there is no interference. For those participating remotely, if you need to message the chair or clerk, please use the chat button on Confero. Also, please wait to speak until you appear on screen, as there can be a slight delay. When speaking, it is helpful for the interpreters if you reference the page number, paragraph, appendices, etc., and also beneficial if you don't speak too quickly. If you lose connection or have technical issues, please alert the clerk's assistant by text on 07385 370069, and they will contact colleagues in IT for assistance. The meeting will be recorded as well as live streamed to be made available on the Council's YouTube channel. Where a member has made a declaration of interest, they are required to leave the meeting prior to consideration of that item. Please advise at that stage that you are leaving the meeting. For those participating remotely, you'll be sent a text and email Teams message advising when you can rejoin the meeting. The meeting is now being recorded, and I'll take the sederunt for this meeting of the Housing and Technical Resources Committee on 10th of August 2022. I have apologies from Councillor Bradley. I've seen that Councillor Brogan is with us. Is Councillor Archie Buchanan? Apologies. Councillor Matthew Buchanan, Councillor Kalikis, Councillor Convery, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Cowan and Councillor Devlin have joined. Councillor Colin Dewar, are you with us? No. And Councillor Fagan? No. I have Councillor Falconer, Councillor Ferguson and Councillor Fulton present. Councillor Gowland? Oh, thank you. Councillor Gray, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Lambie present. Councillor Lennon? And I have Councillor Lockhart, Councillor Mars, Councillor McCallan, Councillor McCreary, Councillor McLaughlin, Councillor Ray and Councillor Shearer joined, and I have Councillor Salamati substituting for Councillor Bradley. I'll pass you back to Chair, thank you.
Wow, his name appeared there. Martin Lennon there. It did, and then it jumped down. Okay. Yeah, I thought I'd seen him appearing there.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks very much, Helen. First item on the agenda is declaration of interest. Any declarations of interest? No. Item 2 on the agenda is monitoring items, revenue budget 2021-22, excluding HRA. And I'll hand that over to Hazel. Press the button. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to provide information on actual expenditure against the revenue budget for housing and technical resources, excluding HRA, and we're covering the full financial year 1st of April 2021 to 31st of March 2022. This is the fourth and final report to committee for financial year 21-22, and the report has appendices A through to D, providing full details of the financial position. Appendix D has additional COVID-19 costs. At section 5.1 of the report, we note that as at 31st of March 2022, there was an overspend position against the phase budget of 0.939 million. That overspend was caused by additional expenditure in relation to COVID-19, including costs for temporary accommodation for homeless people. That overspend was covered by additional funding provided by the Scottish Government, and that was detailed in Executive Committee COVID reports. Also, as noted during the year, the Property Services section continued to incur fixed costs during the COVID-19 period, and that required to be offset by income recovery from both the Housing Revenue Account and other resources, capital and revenue budgets. If I could refer members back to section 2 of the report, committees asked to note the overspend of 0.939 million at the financial year end, and also if you could approve the proposed budget variance within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. I'll move that report. A seconder. Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda, revenue budget monitoring 2021-2022, and it's back over to Hazel again.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide information again on actual expenditure against the revenue budget, this time for Housing and Technical Resources Housing Revenue Account, and again we're covering the period 1st of April 2021 to 31st of March 2022. Again, fourth and final report committee for this account. Again, section 5 of the report provides further information, noting as at 31st of March 2022, there was a break-even position against the phase budget. Again, as noted throughout the year and in the previous report, the fixed costs of the Property Services section continued to be incurred, so the expenditure within the report contains a recharge to the Housing Revenue Account budget that we're required to process at the year end. Again, if I could refer members back to section 2 of the report, please note the position, the break-even position at the financial year end, and also again I have some proposed budget variants if those could be approved. Thank you.
I don't see any hands. Is there any questions or comments? No. I'll move the report. Thank you very much. Item 4 on the agenda, revenue budget monitoring 2022-2023. Back to you again, Hazel.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on to the new financial year then, 22-23. Again, the report is looking at actual information against the phased revenue budget. For housing technical resources, we're excluding HRA on this report. The period we're covering is 1st of April 2022 to 20th of May 2022. That's our accounting period 2. So this is the first report to committee for this financial year. And this time the report only contains appendices A through to C. We're no longer reporting COVID-19 costs separately. The budgets have been realigned to cover that. Section 5.1 of the report again notes that as at 20th of May, there's a break-even position against the phased budget. If I could refer members back to section 2 of the report as to note the break-even position and also to approve the proposed budget variance in the report. Thank you.
Thanks again, Hazel. Any questions or comments? Nope. I'll move that report. Thank you very much. Item 5 on the agenda, Revenue Budget Monitoring 2022-23 HRA. Back over to you again, Hazel.
Thanks again, Chair. So again, New Year report for Housing and Technical Resources, the Housing Revenue account part. Again, we're covering the period 1st of April 2022 to 20th of May 2022, accounting period 2. And it's the first report again to committee for that financial year. Again, section 5.1 of the report notes that as at the 20th of May, there's a break-even position against the phased budget on this account also. Again, I would refer members back to section 2 of the report if you would note the break-even position against the budget. Thank you.
Thanks again, Hazel. Any questions or comments? Nope. I'll move that report.
I'll second it.
Oh, well done. Okay.
System's not been working flawlessly thus far.
Does that mean it goes through twice now? Item 6 on the agenda is the Capital Budget Monitoring 2021-22, excluding HRA, and that's pages 25 to 28. And it's over to Lorraine. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. This is the first of 2 capital budget monitoring reports for the non-HRA side of the resource. So this is the final report for financial year 21-22, and the purpose of the report is therefore to advise committee of the full spend for the year to the 31st of March 2022. The resources spend was included in the overall position that we reported back to Executive Committee in June. Section 3 gives the background and explains that the budget position for the year, the final budget position, was 6.801 million, and that took account of the budget we reported to committee in December last year, the last time we came to this committee, and also some adjustments approved by the Executive Committee back in February. Section 4 details the financial implications, and Section 4.1 notes the total programme of 6.801 million, along with the final spend for the year of 5.484 million. That's a difference of 1.3 million on the approved programme, and Section 4.2 of the report provides you with some information in terms of the reason for the underspend. Section 4.3 notes that any funding which wasn't utilised in the old year will carry forward into the new financial year as appropriate, and an update on the new year is in the next report that I'll talk you through in a second. Sections 4.4 and 4.5 provide a bit of detail in terms of some accounting adjustments that we require to make at the end of the financial year, just to make sure that we're reporting our spend correctly as either capital or revenue spend. So for the resource, £36,000 of capital spend was transferred over to Hazel's World in the revenue side, and that took our final position in terms of the annual accounts only, so the accounting position, to a spend of 5.448 million. I've got nothing further to highlight to members, so if I can refer committee back to the recommendations in section 2, that the Housing and Technical Resources budget of 6.801 million and final spend for the year of 5.484 million be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? No. I'll move the report. Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda, Capital Budget Monitoring 21-22 HRA, and it's back over to Hazel again. Sorry? Oh, page numbers, 2090-32. That's for people online. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide information on the progress of the HRA capital programme. for the period 1st of April 2021 to 31st of March 2022, the full financial year. So it's the final report on that financial year. The revised housing capital programme was 79.640 million. Appendix A of the report provides a bit more information on the programme, including funding sources. At section 5.2 of the report, we note that the actual spend to 31st of March 2022 was 73.181 million. That's a difference of 6.459 million. The delivery of the programme was impacted by the pandemic. So the underspend was partly due to lower than targeted number of buybacks under the open market purchase scheme, and that was due to the prevailing housing market conditions at the time. There was also an underspend in the programme of work invested in the housing stock, and that was mainly due to COVID restrictions, keeping that programme back a wee bit. If I could refer members back to section 2 of the report, committee is asked to note the revised HRA capital programme of 79.640 million and actual expenditure to financial year end of 73.181 million. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments? I see that. Martin, have you got your hand up to speak?
No, but I basically need to keep it up in order to be able
Aye.
to speak in time to second things.
Good shout. Because there's one of the things for people online, when you're invited to speak, there's quite a delay. I noticed that yesterday. So there's a bit of a delay before we hear your voice. So anybody online, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, wait until your face appears on the screen before you start to speak. Thanks, Martin. So I'll move that recommendation.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Item 8 on the agenda is Capital Budget Monitoring 22 to 23, excluding HRA, and it's over to Lorraine Hagan.
Yeah.
And I beg your pardon. Keep forgetting this, and the page numbers is 33 to 36. Sorry, Lorraine, carry on.
Okay, thank you. So moving into the new year then, this is the standard capital budget monitoring report for the non-HRA capital programme and reflects the budget and spend position to the 20th of May 2022, which is accounting period 2. Section 3 gives you the background to the report and explains how the budget is based on the overall capital programme for the new year, which was presented to the Executive Committee at its meeting on the 29th of June. Section 5 details the financial implications. So Section 5.1 notes that the resources total capital programme for the non-HRA is 8.125 million. So that budget is based on the original programme of projects approved in February 22, updated to include budget carried forward from 21-22 and any adjustments that were made as part of the Executive Committee report. In addition, as has been the case in previous years, and as I mentioned in the previous report, to comply with accounting rules, we look to see what project expenditure should be sitting in the revenue or the capital side of the house. So £4 million of the capital programme we feel should be reported through the revenue budget, as it cannot be classed as capital spend in terms of the accounting world. So these adjustments are for planned asset management and private housing scheme of assistance, and they're detailed in section 5.2. And the budget of 8.125 million already reflects these revenue transfers, and they've been included in the revenue position that Hazel talked you through earlier. So finally, in section 5.3, we note the anticipated spend and the actual spend incurred to the 20th of May totalled £61,000. I would then refer committee back to the recommendations in section 2, that the Housing and Technical Resources budget of 8.125 million and spend to the 20th of May of 61,000 be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Lorraine. Any questions or comments? No, I'll move that report.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Item 9 is the Capital Budget Monitoring 2022-2023 HRA, and that's pages 37 to 40.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to Lorraine's last report, we're on the new financial year and we're covering the period 1st of April 2022 to 20th of May 2022 in the programme, Housing Capital Programme for 22-23. The Appendix E of the report provides further details, including the funding sources. At section 5 of the report, we note that the Housing Capital Programme totals 52.230 million. The actual spend to 20th of May 2022 is 3.289 million. If I could refer members back to section 2 of the report, and the recommendation is that the committee notes the Housing Capital Programme HRA capital programme of 52.230 million and expenditure to date at the 20th of May, 3.289 million. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? No, I'll move that report.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Item 10 on agenda, workforce monitoring, April to May 2022, and I'm handing you over to Elaine Maxwell for this one, please, and that's page 41 to 48. Elaine.
Thank you, Chair. This is a standard workforce monitoring report which is prepared by personnel, and the purpose of the report is to provide committee with an update on the employment information for the period April and May 2022 for the resource. Committee will see detailed at section 4.1 that the resource absence figure for May 2022 was 6%, and that does represent a decrease of 1.6% when we're comparing to the previous month. When we compare to May of 2021, the figure has increased by 2.1%. You will also note that the May figure is 0.6 higher than the council-wide figure. We always project what our annual average for the resource will be, and looking at the figures at May, the resource average is predicted for 6.8%, which is compared to a council-wide average of 5.5%. And as members will know, managers continue to follow our maximising attendance policy and work closely with personnel. You will also note that the absence information contained within the section includes absences as a result of COVID-19, and at the time of the report being produced, the Council's absence level was 4.73%, with 1.07 relating to COVID absence. As an update, at the end of last week, that figure changed slightly and was sitting at 4.5%, with 0.8% relating to COVID absence. Section 4.2 outlines the occupational health information, which is also found in Appendix 2, and you will note that there was 116 occupational health referrals made during this period, and that represents an increase of 30 when we look at the same period last year. When you look at Appendix 2, that shows the increases are across predominantly the medical examinations and those referrals that were made to our early intervention officer. Section 4.3 details the accidents and incidents within the resource, and there were 5 recorded within the resource for that period, and that figure remains unchanged. Section 4.4 details the employee relations information, and you will note that there was no activity during those 2 months for this contained within this report. Section 4.5 details the analysis of our leavers, and again, that's outlined in Appendix 2, and we'll note there were 6 leavers during this period that were eligible for an exit interview, with 3 exit interviews being conducted. And members should note that participation in the exit interview process is encouraged but does remain voluntary. Section 4.7 details 24 employees, so 18.36 full-time equivalent left the resource, and managers have indicated that 23, 17.36 FTE are being replaced, with 1 post being left vacant pending a review. Section 5 outlines the staffing watch information that we record, and the details for the resource as at March 22 show a decrease of 7 employees in post from the December 2021 statistics. So I would refer committee back to Section 2 within the report and ask to approve the recommendation to note the employment information for April and May 2022. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Is there any questions or comments? Nope. I'll move that report.
I'll second that.
Next item on the agenda, we're on to items for decision. It's item 11, and it's annual review of the South Lanarkshire Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan, and that's pages 49 to 98. And I'm going to ask Annette Finnan to deal with this one. Annette, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This report updates committee on the completion of the 3rd annual review of the Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan 2019 to 2024. South Lanarkshire's Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan was developed in collaboration with a range of partners and stakeholders and was approved by Housing and Technical Resources Committee in January 2019. The plan is subject to an annual review process. The plan built upon a long-standing commitment and well-established framework within South Lanarkshire to meet the needs of homeless people. The 3rd annual review of the plan was carried out reviewing progress against the 5 high-level priorities and the 53 indicators. During 21-22, positive progress was made with the majority of actions in the plan achieved. A summary of the key highlights and achievements are noted in the table at section 4.4 and include the delivery of 667 additional social rented homes, a further 25% reduction in long-term homelessness, and a 22% reduction in the time spent in temporary accommodation by homeless households with children. Following review of the actions and measures within the plan, one change is proposed, and this is highlighted at section 5, table 3 of the report. The priorities for year 4 of the plan will continue to build upon the progress made and the learning from years 1 to 3, and the key priorities for year 4 are listed at section 6.3. As noted at section 9, to support the delivery of the plan into year 4, the Council has been awarded a further £451,000. The total funding awarded to date is £2,184,717. If I can take committee to the recommendations, committee is asked to approve that the progress made in delivering the plan's objectives as set out in the annual review for 21-22 attached at Appendix 1 be noted, that the proposed revision to the plan as detailed in section 5 be approved, and that the key priorities to be progressed detailed in section 6, not section 7, be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Annette. Is there any questions or comments? Doesn't appear to be. I'll move that report.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Item 12 on the agenda is a housing allocation policy medical assessment, pages 99 to 102. Again, I'm going to ask Annette to deal with this one. Annette.
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks approval to increase housing services establishment by one full-time equivalent policy officer to support the revised medical assessment process. The Council's housing allocation policy was approved by committee and introduced in May 2019. In December 2021, committee approved a minor change to the policy to support the need to change the medical assessment process given the likelihood that the current provider was ceasing to operate. The provider has confirmed they will not be in a position to provide the service after March 2023. As noted in section 4 of the report, following a full appraisal of the options available to carry out a medical assessment process for housing applicants, it is proposed that a dedicated policy officer, independent of the local housing teams, along with a health professional from the Health and Social Care Partnership, carry out this function. This will enable both an independent and a consistent approach. The housing input cannot be delivered from existing resources, and accordingly an additional strategy and policy officer is required, details of which are noted in section 5.1. The costs of the new post will be met from the existing HRA budget, offset in part by the saving from the existing costs. Committee is then asked to approve that the one full-time equivalent strategy and policy officer is added to the establishment as detailed in section 5. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Annette. Thanks, Annette. Is there any questions or comments to this one? Now, I do believe, and I'll come back to it, but I'll deal with this one first, but I do believe there was people did have their hand up at the last item, which we missed. Bit of a delay, maybe. So I'll take questions or comments for this item, item 12 at the moment, and if anybody wants to ask something on the previous item, I'll invite you in. So is there any questions or comments for this one? Andrea Cowan. Is that working at all? Andrea, are you with us?
Hello.
Hello, yep.
Hi. I was looking to comment on item 11.
Okay.
Do you want to come back to that now, Chair, or do you want to deal with item 12?
So, like I said, I'll deal with item 12 at the moment. So I'll take questions or comments for item 12 and I'll revert back once we're finished with this one.
Thank you.
I'll bring you back in.
Thank you.
Anyone for item 12? Julia Mars. Julia? Hi, Julia.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Julia, yeah. Are you...
Thank you. Thank you. I can't see myself on screen, so I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
It's finished. There is a wee bit of a delay on the system.
Yep.
I wish to speak to item 11 as well.
Okay.
Chair's vote, so not for item 12. I'm afraid.
Okay, so item 12, anyone else for item 12? I'll take Alan Faulkner in the room at the moment. Alan?
Thanks, Chair. Just now, 2 points of information. Is it not the case that the medical assessments carried out by a qualified doctor or person with medical qualifications, and in 4.2, the OT is also trained in assessing mental health? Is that the case? I don't know many OTs that are trained.
Annette, can you respond to that?
Thank you, Chair. The current provider is a qualified health professional, and it would be a qualified health professional being an OT that would work with housing professionals in terms of the new process. The occupational therapist service does have skills and awareness around mental health issues and developmental issues as well. We've been working with them to develop this process.
I'll answer your question. So I think I've got Norman in the room. Norman?
Hi, thanks. I was just wondering, in regards to the level of independence of the new system as opposed to the old. Obviously, it was an independent medical advisor before, whereas it seems it's a bit more sort of questionable how independent it is now under the new proposal. So it was just, I suppose, to have sort of any comment or clarification on that. Thanks.
I'm pretty sure you didn't mean any offence there when you said questionable. I'm sure the people were very professional, but I do take your point. An independent medical advisor. What I liked about it before, it was the one person who had been dealing with it for years, and you got the same, how can I put it, not the same response, but the same person was dealing with all applications, so you had parity right across. But this is a change, this is a move forward. Annette, can you respond to that?
Thank you, Chair. We did obviously consider trying to continue with the same type of service as part of the option appraisal. We looked at a commissioned medical assessment service, we looked at an in-house service, and we looked at actually an in-house service just involving the housing team. So following the option appraisal, we looked at how easy it would be to recommission the similar service, and given past history in terms of the tendering process and the procurement process, we knew that there were challenges. In fact, the last provider was the only tenderer when we last renewed the current contract. So that option was ruled out because either it was going to be too expensive based on previous tenders or the lack of interest from others. We also ruled out the option of it being just entirely housing professionals that were looking at this, as is used in other local authorities, because it didn't give that level of consistency that we're looking for, or an independence away from the housing management teams that were dealing with applicants. So this in-house version would have a dedicated housing professional who was independent of any other allocation activity, and an independent health professional. So it gives us both the housing knowledge and the medical knowledge that we're looking for.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments on item 12? No. Is that? Councillor Gray, did you want to speak at item 12 or is that 11?
No, item 12.
Okay.
Chair, can you hear me okay?
Yes, fine, yeah.
Fine. I'm glad to hear from Annette that there is assurance that mental health and PTSD is going to be considered in applications. I had to look at the medical form, and it seems to a lot of people that are filling that in seem to think that that is all for physical disabilities, and I just wondered if the form could possibly be looked at and redesigned to maybe consider mental health difficulties as well, if that's possible.
Annette?
Thank you, Chair. Absolutely. In terms of the transition to the new process, we'll be looking at the application form and the whole assessment process and how that can be approved. The current allocation policy does make it clear that we'll take into account both physical, mental health issues and developmental issues, so we can amend the form as we transition to the new process for next year, taking that on board. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Annette. Does that answer your question, Jerry? Yep, she's gone. Okay, anybody else for item 12? Janine Kalikas, is it item 12 you want to speak to?
Hello?
Yes, I hear you. Yep.
So coming off the back of Jerry's point about mental health, I just wanted to ask a question about hoarding. So hoarding was officially recognised as a mental health disorder, I think in 2018 or 2019 by the World Health Organisation. I noticed that some councils around Scotland now are introducing policies across resources to support individuals with hoarding disorder, and charities are reporting that coming out of lockdown and coming out of the pandemic, there's an increase in people reporting concerns about individuals who may be suffering. I don't know that we have a policy around reporting. Certainly we have a policy around environmental health and that the approach from that point of view, but do we have a policy, or are we working up a policy around how we support individuals who are suffering specifically from hoarding disorder across resources, so that they're supported to remain in their homes in a meaningful, safe way?
Good question. Annette, could you answer that question, please?
Thank you, Chair. Housing and Technical Resources doesn't have a policy specific to hoarding. For a number of years, we've worked closely with social work and health and social care partners to support our tenants who experience hoarding or who have challenges around that. I think in a wider context, this would obviously relate back to adult services within social work in terms of supporting people with mental health in the wider community. But certainly as a mental health issue that might be affecting someone's house and their ability to sustain that tenancy or live in it, then Housing already will work with colleagues to support that, and that would be taken into account in terms of their housing need. But as I say, it would be a wider issue that would need to be raised with adult services within social work to support the wider community.
Thanks, Annette. Does that address your question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else for item 12? No. I'm going to move that report.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. So I'm going back to item 11 now. Apologies for missing that on the screen there. It's new technology to everyone. So questions for item 11. Julia, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Can I check you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Yes, as the cost of living looms large, and even more so in the coming months, I'm very conscious that whilst a lot of excellent work has been carried out in terms of reducing the risk of homelessness and dealing with people when they are in that situation, I'm very keen that the action plan deals with the fact that housing costs and fuel costs are inexplicably linked. That I'd be very keen to include in E2.4 on page 89 of the report that while a review of rent charges is welcome in terms of looking at our accommodation, that in addition to that, energy requirements of the properties are looked at. And whilst realising that the real levers to deal with the cost of living crisis and fuel prices don't lie with councils, and absolutely sit squarely in the UK Government and the Chancellor. I think that when we are buying services from housing associations and private sector for accommodation, whether the fuel requirements, fuel type and the washing facilities in terms of whether showers are available should be included in terms of that policy.
Annette? Yep. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to assure Councillor that we do aim to ensure that the quality of the housing that we take on board for temporary accommodation, that would include the fuel type and the heating type, is considered. Because we cover the whole of South Lanarkshire, then there are areas where the heating type and the fuel type has to differ, particularly in the rural area. But where we do take on accommodation, once we've got residents in that, then we have housing support officers who work closely with them to ensure that they're getting advocacy and advice and signposted to any relevant agencies that can help them in terms of both money, advice, and that would include fuel costs. But I think the point you make is worth noting, and we'll take that on board to try and make sure that the energy part is taken into account in terms of affordability.
Thanks, Annette. Does that answer your question, Julia? Thank you.
It does, thank you.
Thanks. Next one is Andrea Cowan. Andrea, you on?
Hi.
Right, we can see you now. Carry on.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's a wee bit, obviously a wee bit of a sentiment, but I really just wanted to commend and welcome the report on the Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan and pay testament to the hard work of the council officers who obviously implemented quite a radical rehousing plan, I think it was, and also to acknowledge that this work was done by the previous SNP administration, and we're bearing the fruits of that now. I just wanted to make a comment on a couple of things. The 604 new homes that were built, giving people, not only giving them homes, but giving them modern and energy efficient homes, and I hope that the new administration is able to continue with that. I think it's a lot, we hear from constituents, and I'm already hearing from constituents that temporary accommodation they feel is a bit below par. And so when they get their new home, it must be wonderful to move into a brand new home, and I hope that continues. Also delighted that in the 3 years since this has been running, there's been a 65% reduction in homelessness. Again, I think that's a fantastic achievement, and commend everyone for their hard work. One of the points that particularly pleased me was, and I know it was mentioned, the 22% reduction in the time spent in temporary accommodation for households with children. I don't need to tell anyone here what the benefits of having a home are to a child and to be settled. So again, I'm just really congratulating everybody involved. I also think it's important to mention the Home Start team. Once new tenants get their home, the Home Start team provides ongoing support, and I think that's really important, that you don't just hand someone a set of keys and leave them to it, especially as we touched on, if people have any sort of mental health issues, ongoing support is essential. And year 4, and the list of priorities going into year 4, I'm sure will build on the previous success, and I'm looking forward to more good results in the coming year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your comments. We do appreciate the work that was done in the previous administration. I'd like to thank anyone involved in that for that, so thank you very much. I don't know if I missed it or not, but was there a question in there?
No, there wasn't. I just wanted to welcome.
Thank you very much. So, I think we can move on to item 13 now. So there's no more questions on that one, is there? Sorry? Sorry? Yes, they were. They were approved previously. Right. So item 13 is disposal of vacant domestic dwelling house at number 1, New House Mill Cottages in East Kilbride. Joanne, would you take us through that report? And it's pages 103 to 106.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek committee approval to the disposal of the house at 1 New House Mill Cottages, East Kilbride. This is a 1-bedroom terrace house and is unique to the housing stock. It would require significant investment to bring it up to the Scottish housing quality standards, and therefore the preferred option is for us to declare the property surplus and advertise it for sale on the open market. I would therefore refer the committee to section 2 and recommend that the property is declared surplus and advertised for sale. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. Any questions or comments? Agree to report? Move the report, sorry.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Sorry, beg your pardon. Oh, Matthew Buchanan. We're still getting used to this. Just don't worry, we'll get there in a year or two.
Thanks, Chair. Can I ask, the report says it requires significant investment to meet the Scottish housing quality standard. Do we have an estimated figure for that?
I don't have to hand with me today, but I can certainly provide that to you. In terms of the estimated value of the house, the capital receipt that we hope to get for this would hopefully enable us to buy almost 2 other houses. So we feel in terms of the overall stock, this would be the best way forward.
Matthew, I don't know if you know the property or where it is, but it's very untraditional, and it'd be really difficult. I think you asked the same question earlier of the officials, and I think it'd be really quite difficult to bring it up to something that resembles what we currently have in our housing stock. So thanks for that. So can we agree that report, or have we done? I think we have. Yep. Item 14 on the agenda is notification of contracts awarded 1st November to the 30th of June, and these are for noting only. Can we agree to note? Agreed? Yep. Item 15, Delegated Authority update for noting only. Can we agree to note? Thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance. I have no items of urgent business. However, I would like to take this opportunity to let everyone know, if they don't know already, that our Executive Director, Danny Lowe, sitting in front of us, is moving on to pastures new. When I was first elected into this position, it seemed like no time at all that I heard that Danny was leaving. I just wondered what I'd said or what I'd... starting to get a bit of a complex, but nevertheless, no, Danny's moving on to pastures new, as we said. I'd like to thank Danny on behalf of everyone at the council and everyone who's worked along with him and all the help that he's provided for everyone. He's been director for 6.5 years. I think he's got a record with the council in the previous council and the district days, stretching a span of about 30 years. Now that's quite remarkable, and he looks as if he's just in the door today, doesn't he? Look, you've not been working hard enough, Danny. No, Joe, he's leaving. Yes, so. Well, I just want to say thank you very much, Danny, for everything. You've been a fantastic official to work with, certainly for a personal level. Anything that I've come to you with, you've always been very responsive. We don't always get what we're looking for as councillors. We're all realists here, but Danny has been excellent to work with, and I want to thank him for that. And on behalf of everybody, I would like to wish you all the very best in anything that you do. So, Jerry, did you want to come in?
Yeah. Mark Deminde. Chair, very briefly, sorry. I've known Danny since 1995, away back to when I ran the DLO, which is many moons ago, and he was a young guy, and I was even younger. And I've got to wish you all the best, my friend. We've had our differences over the years, but at the end of the day, you've been a very good officer for this councillor. Be sorry to see you go. I'm just counting last night, 28 years you and I have worked together. So I wish you all the very best in the future.
Danny, there's a couple other people who want to make a wee contribution here. Will I bring you in at the end? we could be here a while. So, I see you online. We've got David Shearer who would like to come in. David, there you go. You're on screen now, David. Carry on.
Thank you, Chair. Just to echo your comments and Jerry Conway's comments, my thanks to Danny for the years of service. He has performed excellently in many roles in his time within housing, up to and including director. So my personal thanks and the thanks of the SNP to Danny's efforts, and best wishes whatever he does in the future.
Thanks,
Thank you,
David.
Chair.
I've got one more. Is it Margaret Cooper? Margaret?
Can you hear me?
Yes, see you, Margaret. Hear and see you.
Danny, I want to thank you for all the work you've done over the last period of time as director. I've had a fantastic experience working with you, and I'll really miss you. You were a great assistance to me, if I say with your nephew, from time to time. I'm sure others in the room know who that is, and I couldn't have done without you. I hope you have a fantastic experience in your new job. Sorry, it sees you into the time, Danny, and enjoy the fact that you won't have to travel so far in the future. You're in the town and you'll be working in the town. So my grateful thanks to you for everything you've done to support any projects or any involvement I've had with your team, and all the very best to you.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Danny, over to you.
Thanks to everybody for your kind words this morning. I'm really touched by it all. They say that dogs are a great judge of character, and I'm not sure Margaret's dog is fully in agreement with the words that she's put across here, so maybe that's been a real reality check for me. They're going back in it as well. But as I say, thanks to everybody. It's been really kind. I suppose I've been really fortunate. I've classed myself as being fortunate in the career I've had, which does span over 30 years, believe it or not. It seems to have gone in a flash. I've been fortunate that, you know, I've worked for a really good employer. South Lanarkshire is a great employer, and would thoroughly recommend it to anybody. Going forward as well, and I've been presented with great opportunities, some of which I thought would never come my way, and I really appreciate being given the opportunity to move forward in the organisation, to progress to the level I've had, and you know, I'm pleased to think I hear the words this morning that I've made a good go at it, I suppose, when it goes back into it as well. I'm also really fortunate that I've worked with some really talented, knowledgeable and experienced individuals, notwithstanding everybody sitting at this table this morning. They're really good teams. I've worked with some great teams across the resource. I've worked with some great teams again across the corporate management team as well, and going forward, in the council's in good hands with the people that are there and are coming through as well. So again, thanks to everybody there that have supported me, and I suppose on the last basis as well, I've also been really fortunate in my career with the council that feel as if I have been really well supported by elected members. Some of it's not been easy, some of it's been challenging. As we know, we've sat in this forum, we have had differences of opinion, not too many, but hopefully there's always a rationale and there's always a way forward. We've continued to push the resource forward as well, and hopefully, you know, everybody's content with where we are, and we've moved in the ship in a good direction. I've also been really well supported as well by our trade union colleagues in terms of the partnership work we've carried out as well, and finally the external partners. So again, I consider myself I've probably done pretty well for myself. So thanks again everybody for your kind words, and I hope to see you all soon before I go. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Danny. All the best. So it leaves me to thank everyone for their attendance. Thank you very much.